Eloa Olerin called on the reserve of the arching cerulean sky above her. Power blazed from that endless source, marching down her trunk in strict equations. The ancient baobab tree cast a gnarled shadow over the red grass of the savannah. Woven by the magic of mathematics, the intricate patterns of her spells burnt themselves into the bark as her trunk glided through the air. As the leaves rustled above her, doubt crept into her mind like a snake, coiling around her thoughts. Were these ancient incantations really enough to harness the power of numbers? Was she truly worthy of carrying on her family's legacy? Her trunk curled as if in the throes of a trango dance to touch the smooth, tuskless cheeks of her face. But she had a job to do, a test to pass. Eloa pushed away the stubborn fog of vacillation. Let the sum of the forces be balanced. Hello, and welcome to a slightly unusual episode of Just in Time Worlds with your host, Marie Mullaney. Today, we're going to build a world. We're going to go from concept all the way through to first chapter writing. And we're going to do it using a tool called Sudowrite. Full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Sudowrite, and thank you very much to them for sponsoring this content. Sudowrite is a generative AI assistant. Now, my opinion on generative AI and its use is that it is a useful tool for the writer. It is a tool that has validity in terms of using it to brainstorm, bouncing ideas off it, helping it with the editing process, and if you suffer from blank page fright, as in you struggle to generate your first draft, the tool can be useful for this. I'll talk more about a few caveats around that point when we reach that point in the process. I do want to say that this tool is not going to replace the human author. You still need to have the idea. You still need to review and edit and work on the tool's output. This just helps you increase and streamline your process and keep track of all of the world building that you've done and the creation process. There is also a link to Sudowrite down below. It is an affiliate link, so if you follow it, this channel does gain some benefit. Okay, so with all of those caveats and PSAs out of the way, let's talk about this world we're going to generate and the story that we'll write the first chapter of. I've had this idea in my head for quite a while, and I just have not found the time to actually write the story. You know, I have an epic fantasy series on the go, and I have a science fiction series on the go, so a third one is just a little excessive. So I thought it would make a good example for today's work. It's a cozy fantasy idea where we have no humans in the world. Instead, our sapient species is elephants. And they live on a savanna-like environment, an environment inspired by Africa. And the magic system is based on mathematics. So you have constants and geometric patterns and so on that generate power in the environment. So like pi holds a reservoir of power and other mathematical constants like that. And then the elephants have equations that they can draw with tools that they manipulate with their trunk. And those equations function like runes in runic magic, where you form the power of the constants into the spell that you want through the mathematical equation. And the reason why I chose this particular magic system is because I wanted to have a magic system where the mage imposes their idealized will upon the world. And that's what mathematics does, right? It creates a idealized environment based on the assumptions of mathematics. And the reason why is because this supports the theme I want to include in the story. And the theme I want to write about here is the acceptance of self and the acceptance of the environment, and a kind of serenity, gaining that serenity of knowing when to let go and adapt to your environment rather than trying to force your will upon your environment. How I figured I'd do this is through a protagonist called Eloa, who through a quirk of fate is born without tusks, right? This is something that does happen to elephants. And Eloa sees herself as being crippled because of this, if you'll forgive the word. And because of this, she sees herself as lesser, and so she focuses on her magical studies and she tries to overcome this problem. And her herd is hit with drought. The whole savannah is hit with drought. And Eloa undertakes a journey to find a spell to return water, to break the drought that has encountered the savannah. And on this quest, she encounters the Namib beetle, which we'll rename, but the Namib desert beetle that has these special grooves which allows it to capture water as the mists roll in off the ocean, and that is then channeled into the beetle's mouth, right? So this beetle, through its lifestyle, it doesn't talk, but just through its lifestyle, it teaches Eloa the lesson that you don't have to adapt your environment. Sometimes you can change yourself and adapt yourself to your environment and achieve the same ends as forcing change on your environment. So that's the primary lesson. But then I also needed a way to ensure that this civilization of elephants can transmit knowledge generation to generation. And in order to do that, I use the baobab trees as my repository of knowledge. And in the baobab trees, you can deposit knowledge. An elephant can deposit new mathematical equations and so on. But doing so means severing yourself from your herd and living in the baobab grove, which is something that is suggested to Eloa at the beginning of the story, but she doesn't want to go that way. And yet in the end, this is the role that she embraces in order to teach future generations of elephants her lessons that she learned on this journey of self-discovery. Okay, so that's the idea that I have in my head of this elephant society and the story. Now, let's take a look at Sudowrite and how this tool can help take that rough idea, help me refine it, and get to that first chapter. So we're going to turn to Sudowrite here, and at this point, I've got Sudowrite open and I have enabled the Story Bible feature. Now, this Story Bible starts with a brain dump section. Now, I have obviously pre-prepared the brain dump that I pasted in here, and this is basically everything that I've just covered in the previous section. After completing the brain dump, you then need to put in the genre that you want to take, and I want to write this genre as cozy fantasy. Then we come to style. Now, in the style section, you can put a note here like show, don't tell, no purple prose, etc. But you can also do something pretty cool. You can ask the tool to match your style. So what I'm going to use to match my style is the first chapter out of my epic fantasy series, Sangwell Chronicles. And I'm just going to paste in 2000 words and next. And then Sudowrite will analyze my word choices here. So obviously this is now incorrect because it's not about Eloa, but I do want the story told in third person limited following Eloa's perspective. I want the tone is friendly and cozy. So from that chapter that I put in, we now have third-person limited POV with complex formal vocabulary and descriptive slow-paced sentences, sparse but effective dialogue with detailed sensory descriptions and recurring themes of wisdom and serenity. Unique cultural and historical context with use of magic. With use of maths as magic. So don't just take the tool's output as is. You want to make sure that you actually edit the tool's output and create the output that'll work for your story. That gives us our style. That's great. Then I did already create the synopsis previously. Now, the synopsis is, in this case, a little dramatic. The tool does sometimes go a little like drama-ridden. Eloah's story becomes woven into the tapestry of the time of the elephant lore, and it's a testament to the power of perseverance and so on. It's just the way that the tool generates it. But of course, you can edit what is going on in here, right? I would actually like to rewrite this synopsis based on a few details. What I want to rewrite the synopsis in is I want the tropes of cozy fantasy more explicit, and I also want an antagonist bull elephant who teases Eloah about her missing tusks, and he calls her tuskless, and his growth arc is learning kindness. Okay, so let's rewrite this synopsis and see what the tool comes up with. Okay. In the vast African savanna, where the red grasses sway and the acacia groves dot the landscape, a civilization of sapient elephants has arisen. These majestic creatures have harnessed the power of mathematics to develop an intricate system of magic, deeply intertwined with their daily lives and cultural practices. Through the precise recitation and inscriptions of equations, they manipulate the very fabric of their world, drawing upon the intrinsic properties of numbers, geometric shapes, and mathematical constants. At the heart of the society lies the Baobab Grove, a living repository of knowledge where the towering trees serve as conduits, storing and transmitting the wisdom of generations through their vast root systems. Among these elephants is Eloah, a young female born without tusks due to a quirk of fate. This physical difference leads her to feel inadequate, and she works tirelessly on her skills in mathematical magic to overcome her perceived lack. However, she faces relentless teasing from a young bull named Kimu, who mocks her with the nickname Tuskless. His taunts cut deep, adding to Eloah's insecurities, but also fueling her determination. As a severe drought descends on the savannah, threatening the very existence of Eloah's herd, she embarks on a journey that will challenge her perceptions and test the limits of her abilities. Guided by the wisdom of her elders and the natural wonders that surround her, Eloah learns about the remarkable water harvesting abilities of the Namib desert beetle, whose unique bumps and grooves allow it to condense and channel moisture directly into its mouth. Inspired by this natural adaptation, Eloah immerses herself in the study of mathematical patterns, determined to unravel the secrets that could save her herd. Through painstaking calculations and the manipulation of geometric harmonies, she develops a groundbreaking equation that mimics the beetle's water harvesting technique. This equation, when inscribed upon the elephant's skin and tusks, allow them to collect the precious dew and moisture that clings to the arid environment, providing a lifeline in the face of the relentless drought. Okay, so this is fine. The problem is that it moves too directly to the solution. So I wanted to instead start with Eloah going on a journey to try and alter the environment. So I'm going to actually just rewrite this a little. Okay, so the changes that I've made here is as a severe drought descends on the savannah, threatening the very existence of Eloah's herd, she embarks on a journey that will change her perceptions and test the limits of her ability. Eloah, driven by a dream, goes on a quest to find a powerful equation lost to the mists of time, which is believed to be capable of changing the weather and breaking the drought. She is accompanied by a wise old bull, Sifu, and Kimu. On their journey, they end up stranded in the desert, and here Eloah learns about the remarkable water harvesting abilities of the Nama desert beetle, whose unique bumps and grooves allow it to condense and channel moisture directly into its mouth. Inspired by this natural adaptation, Eloah immerses herself in the study of mathematical patterns, determined to unravel the secrets that could save her herd. Through painstaking calculations and manipulation, she develops the groundbreaking equation that mimics the beetle's water harvesting technique. And this allows the elephants to then harvest water from the environment. Great. So, and Chemo's experiencing his growth arc, and Eloah makes the sacrifice, goes to the grove, becomes one of the elephants of the grove, and inscribes the equation into the grove. Okay, so I'm liking this as a summary. It could probably do with a little more, but I think this does fine. Before we get to generate character, there's one more thing that I want to do here. I want to rename this Namib Desert Beetle. And to do that, I think that our best approach is to use this handy dandy brainstorm. So let's go to names. I like this one, but I think let's call it water spinner. Okay, so instead of calling it a Namib desert beetle, we will call it the water spinner beetle. Now we're going to hit generate all characters, and this will actually go through our synopsis and it will generate the characters that we're looking for in this synopsis, which is great because it means we have the cards available to us to actually work with in our story. And obviously, again, you can add characters. You can edit these character cards. You can add additional trays. So again, don't fixate on the output. Edit what you need to edit here. So let's take a look at what it's done for us. We have Eloah, resourceful, curious, compassionate. That's fine. Looks good. Kimu, brash and arrogant. Has his growth arc in. That's great. Sifu, calm and collected. All good. Then it's generated a few additional characters for us. That should be fine. All right. So now, once you've got your character settled and edited in how you want, you can then go ahead and say, generate me the outline. And as with the synopsis, as with the brain dump, as with the characters, you want to edit what is going on here. You never want to just accept what is written here, right? You want to edit it. You want to make it your story. So obviously I am moving quite fast through this because this is for the purpose of demonstration and for a video. But when you are doing this for real, make sure that you read every section of it and that you edit what you need to edit. Okay, so Act 1, we have a Chapter 1 introduction. We introduce Eloah, the elephant civilization. We have and then Chapter 2, We have the severe drought. Excellent. I do like the slower introduction. Call to action. She embarks on her quest. She meets the mentor. She hones her skills in mathematical logic. She faces a dangerous obstacle. Treacherous mountain pass is fine. She gets a new confidant in... I'd edit this. So afterwards, if I go forward with the story, I'll definitely edit that because I don't want her meeting another elephant. I would rather have her meet something else here that guides her in some way. Then the water spinner beetle is great. I would cut the romance. I'm not a huge fan of a romance in this specific story. Kimu's jealousy is fine. That's great. Eloa and Kimu have a conflict, and he challenges Eloa's leadership, and this causes fractures within the group. That's great. And Eloa discovers the water harvesting equation instead of the equation to find the ways to alter the environment. And this leads to the climax, and the group is attacked, forcing them to make a decision. And Eloa doubts her decisions, and she begins to fear that she has led the group wrong. And then Kimu opens up about his own insecurities, and that leads to Eloa finding renewed strength and resolve in the desert environment, and they're going to use the water harvesting equations to save the herd. The drought is mitigated, the herd adapts, and Eloa returns. So I'd edit this as well because I want her to go to the grove. I want her to help more than just her herd, and I wanted to strive for that. But for the purpose of today's video, all I'm really married to is chapter 1, because I want to show you what that looks like in this tool. So chapter 1, the introduction of Eloa and the elephant civilization, is fantastic. So we can also in here include things like setting, organization, lore, key event, magic system, etc. in this world building Bible. You've got a lot of options here to include more details within the tool itself. But what I'm going to do now is hit create chapter 1. And step 1, we can generate the beats. So this I like because it allows you to generate the beats that you want to have in the chapter without writing them for you. My biggest caveat with these tools is if you use the tool to generate the actual prose, I fear that you will lose your authorial voice. And one of the unique things about any given author is their authorial voice. It is the voice that the author speaks with. And so I think that you should use the tool absolutely to generate beats. Use the tool to keep track of your world building, to do brainstorming with, to find inspiration, to generate the outlines, to organize your notes. But I think that it is better to write the prose yourself and then use the tool as your editing buddy. So use Sudowrite to edit your prose rather than using Sudowrite to generate your prose. Now for today's video, I am going to generate the prose because this is for demonstration purposes, but I do just want to add that caveat. Okay. In terms of beats, these look fine. She's practicing her magic. She struggles with it. We introduce chemo. We show chemo's teasing. All that we want in this chapter is up to beat number 5. All right, let's generate and see.
The vast cerulean sky arched over Eloa Olerin as energy hummed at the tip of her trunk. Mm, I mean, it's a good line, but I would personally prefer to have Elowen be a little more active, right? So let's take that and let's rewrite it. Let's make it more, rewrite to be more active. Go. Okay, that's better. Let's insert that. But now I don't want her just standing tall. So Ellerin Olerin called on the power of the arching sky, the arching cerulean sky above her. Power blazed that endless source marching down her trunk in strict equations. Okay, so the reason why I rephrased it like that is basically to make Elowen the active component, and two, to immediately introduce both magic and the fact that we're dealing with a non-human protagonist. Now, you'll notice here that what I did with the tool was I got it to rewrite, I inserted the text, and then it was marked as purple so that I can then edit that inserted text and actually make it say what I wanted to say. Okay, now we've already established that she's standing, so we don't need this. So the ancient baobab tree cast a gnarled shadow over the red grass of the savannah before her. Her large, expressive eyes, pools of determination, were fixed on the intricate patterns. She traced into the dirt with her trunk, weaving equations that simmered faintly in the heat of the afternoon sun. That is a run-on sentence right there. So we've already established that we have equations, power blazed from that endless source marching down her trunk in strict equations. Okay, so we've got that. So we don't need that per se. Her large expressive eyes, pools of determination, traced, I don't like the word, traced the intricate patterns of her spells woven like the magic of mathematics into. I'm not liking her eyes doing the tracing here. I think we should actually just go with her spells. The intricate patterns of her spells, woven by the magic of mathematics, burn themselves into. So our first paragraph would then be, Elowyn Olaran called on the power of the arching cerulean sky above her. Power blazed from that endless source, marching down her trunk in strict equations. The ancient baobab tree cast a gnarled shadow over the red grass of the savannah before her. The intricate patterns of her spells, woven by the magic of mathematics, burnt themselves into the bark as her trunk glided through the air. Actually, I don't like two sentences starting with this. So let's reverse this. Woven by the magic of mathematics, the intricate patterns of her spells burnt themselves in intricate patterns of her spells burnt themselves into the bark as her trunk glided through the air. So you can see that there is a definite alteration in the paragraph, but the paragraph generated for us still gave me the ideas that I needed in order to kind of craft that first paragraph. As did, the idea here of the little bit of rewriting. Ella's body swayed slightly as she moved. Oh, I do not like ly adverbs. Ella's body swayed as she moved, the rhythmic motion of her trunk creating lines and curves in the dust. Okay, we've already established that. And I don't like each movement was deliberate. I do like each line a precise variable in the grand equation of her craft. So let's cut this. We've established all of that. Let's make this a rewrite. Let's add some inner conflict. Go. Okay, so I think that I want to start the sentence with as the leaves rustled above her and her breath remained steady, she couldn't shake the doubt that crept into her mind. Okay, little tally. Let's see what a rewrite into show not tell will give us. As the leaves rustled above her, doubt crept into her mind like a like a snake. Slithering snake is it's cute, but it's a little excessive. Coiling around her thoughts. I don't think we need the suffocating her consciousness. That's that's a little excessive there. And then you can say, were these ancient incantations really enough to harness the power of numbers? Was she truly worthy of carrying on her family's legacy? Then we can have Eloah pushed away the stubborn fog of doubt. But I don't want to repeat doubts. So let's take a look at what our options is. Now, this is the thesaurus feature, which I love in Sudowrite. So you can have uncertainty, second thoughts, dubiety, irresolution, vacillation, hesitancy. So you've got a lot of options here that you can think about, like what word do you want to replace that doubts with? In this case, I think the best replacement here is perhaps uncertainty or vacillation. I like vacillation, so let's take that. Okay. So Eloah pushed away the stubborn fog of vacillation. So I added a few lines just to emphasize her tuskless state and to give us a reason for what's going on right now. She's trying to pass a magical test. So her trunk curled as if by its own volition to touch the smooth, tuskless cheeks of her face. But she had a job to do, a test to pass. Eloah pushed away the stubborn fog of vacillation. Okay, so I'm going to stop the editing process there because I think I've shown you the critical components of the editing process, and I don't think anybody really wants to watch me edit the whole chapter. But the basic principle is you get a thesaurus, you get some rewriting ability, you can ask for rewrites in to show not tell, you can ask for rewrites to make it more descriptive. And in fact, the description is really interesting because you can add your description here, and it will actually give you passages where it shows you what a site description would look like. Like, for example, the thick, sturdy trunk of the baobab tree swayed gracefully through the air as if guided by some unseen force. Or scent. The scent of the earth and wild grass wafted through the air, mixed with a faint aroma of ancient magic. Or taste. Despite the intensity of the moment, Eloa could taste the hint of sweetness on her tongue, the lingering taste of honey and fruit from her pre-spell ritual. Or sound. Above her, the leaves rustled in the wind, creating a soothing symphony of nature and that grounded Eloa as she prepared for her task. And what helps with these descriptions is not necessarily the specific words, but the reminder that your descriptions should include sight, smell, taste, sound, touch, etc. It helps you to create that immersive structure around your story, even if you don't actually use the words generated by Sudowrite itself. There's also some metaphor that'll, kind of spark imagination. So her trunk moved with grace and determination that seemed to come from another realm, reaching up to caress her face with a tenderness that belied her fierce purpose. I would never, for example, in the story, use her trunk moved with the grace and precision of a ballet dancer, because in a world where your sapient species is elephants, you're never going to have a ballet dancer. But it does spark the thought of what would the equivalent be? Do these elephants have something like ballet dancing that is considered to be a graceful performing art that they do? And then, of course, I can go to the world building and I can add a cultural custom in here and say, in this custom, we have the dance of the trunks, a performance art practiced by sapient elephants that is their equivalent of a ballet dance. The dance of the trunks is a graceful performance art practiced by sapient elephants akin to ballet. Elephants perform intricate movements with their trunks and bodies, creating mesmerizing patterns that reflect mathematical precision and harmony. The dance often takes place in moonlit clearings, accompanied by rhythmic stomps and soft trumpet calls that resonate across the savannah. Okay, so now we have the dance of the trunks, but I don't want to call it that per se. So let's generate some. We've got stampedes, waltz. Okay, so trunk tango. Okay, trunk tango, but I'm not sure I like trunk tango per se, but that gives me an idea for calling it truongo, which is a little bit hard to pronounce. How about trango? A trango dance. I like that. Trango dancing. From trunk and tango and making the two words one and then changing it a little bit gives me trango dancing, which is both pronounceable and can be used for this purpose. Okay, cool. So that gives us our piece of world building that we needed. And then back to chapter 1. Her trunk curled as if in the throes of a trango dance, to touch the smooth, tuskless cheeks of her face. But she had a job to do, a test to pass. Eloa pushed away the stubborn fog of vacillation. And I think that that will do nicely to demonstrate the power of this tool. So let's read those first few paragraphs. Eloa Olerin called on the reserve of the arching cerulean sky above her. Power blazed from that endless source. marching down her trunk in strict equations. The ancient baobab tree cast a gnarled shadow over the red grass of the savannah before her. Woven by the magic of mathematics, the intricate patterns of her spells burnt themselves into the bark as her trunk glided through the air. As the leaves rustled above her, doubt crept into her mind like a snake, coiling around her thoughts. Were these ancient incantations really enough to harness the power of numbers? Was she truly worthy of carrying on her family's legacy? Her trunk curled as if in the throes of a trango dance to touch the smooth, tuskless cheeks of her face. But she had a job to do, a test to pass. Elowa pushed away the stubborn fog of vacillation. Let the sum of forces be balanced.
For me, the best part of Sudowrite is the editing buddy, the brainstorming for names, and the thesaurus features, right there in the tool. It is great to be able to edit and rework and rephrase my writing without needing to open a new tab to look at a thesaurus or search for alternative words or struggle with translations. And the alternative suggestions for descriptions really helps to give me ideas on how to rephrase my edit. As I said at the beginning, this is not going to replace a human. You're not going to take this and go, yes, here we go, I have written a masterpiece. You could see how much I edited in the creation of chapter 1. Indeed, I didn't even end up matching the beats exactly because halfway through the second paragraph, I decided that I need Elowa to be doing a test because that will add some immediate conflict and hook the reader into the story. And that came up as I was editing the chapter. So this is not a case of I'm going to take the tool and the output will be perfect. That's not how this works. You are going to take the tool and it will massively increase the speed of your writing process. It will help you outline your chapter. It will help you get started taking your idea from a vague concept to a detailed outline. It will help you overcome that terrible first blank page. So that is my take on the Sudowrite tool. I think that it can be very useful as a editing buddy, as a outlining buddy, and it will help you increase your output speed and quality. And if you want to explore more about it, you can follow my link down below to explore Sudowrite for yourself. And that will also, of course, support the channel. And I will see you soon for another episode of Just in Time Worlds, where we build what we need, when we need it.